Hello, Simran.
Hey, Colin.
Thank you for talking to me today.
Of course.
Um, Again, congratulations on putting everything together to run for president. It's definitely a tough task.
Thank you.
If you're going to walk me through what would perhaps the hardest process of running for president, what would you say that would be?
The hardest process I'd definitely say would be kind of taking my ideas for what the role of the president is and how I'd be best able to fulfill them, and actually putting them into words because I read over the Constitution, especially the one that was come up by student council that kind of defined what the president is supposed to do, and I'm like, well, there's not really much here, so what can I bring to that role? And really articulating that for hopefully the student body was probably the biggest challenge.
And if I'm correct here, you're probably pretty familiar with the Constitution working
Yeah.
on policy boards, so
Yeah.
I think that could definitely be, part of your ability to like compile some background knowledge of what's been happening so far in the rules. Do you see
Yeah.
that as a potential advantage?
I'd hope so, because as defined by the Constitution, the role of the president is to be on both community board and policy board and really serve as a leading force. And from my experience, you kind of have to know how something works in order to be an effective leader, whether that's the captain of the sport or whether that's stage manager for plays. You have to know the way things are in order to advocate for change. So hopefully I'll be able to bring both a unique perspective and a fresh one, as I've only been on policy board for 1 year, while also helping to actually get things done.
Definitely. And so, if you could vote for someone other than yourself in this election, who would you vote for?
That's a really good question. So I don't have an answer for that right now,
Okay.
but there's a few questions that I'd want to ask them as to exactly kind of find out where they're coming at, kind of their role of the president. Because from two of the candidates, I've heard promises of inclusive communities without actually some real tangible ways to make that happen. Another candidate, I've heard great ideas for kind of what the future of OES could look like, again, without that kind of plan of action and really without anything that could be best supported if you are president. Like, I think a lot of those could be done from community board or the happiness project.
Right.
So figuring out why they need to be president in order to make their kind of vision for the school a reality and getting that question answered would really be beneficial in that decision.
So, why would you in particular need to be president?
I think the big thing is I have experience, and I see the problems in our community. The disciplinary process is one of them, and I've already taken steps to make those changes, and my goal would be to continue doing that. And another thing that I've prioritized is actually having one-on-one conversations. So with community conversations, the first time we went and things we kind of had the unveiling, didn't go so well.
Right, yeah.
Even as person who organized it spent hours, and I recognized that. So I made it a priority to go and talk to people, various members of our community, to figure out, all right, how can we make it better? Second time was better. It's still not perfect. So recognizing that everything I do isn't going to be an incredible project that everyone loves, and actually be willing to change that and work on it is something that I hope to bring.
Well, I can definitely speak for the improved structure in the community conversations. I remember
Thank
the first time it's kind of a difficult procedure, but I think, after we got things working and we got to topics that people wanted to talk to and we had
Yeah.
people that were well equipped to talk about that, I think that was something vital. So do you see those community conversations playing an even bigger role next year if you're president?
I mean, yes and no, in that I think we have a pretty strong kind of reason as to why they exist, but they could be taking various forms. Like, it could be screening a movie and having a conversation about that. It could be even just getting to know various members of our community by playing board games. So that's an idea I think that Asha had. So just doing random new ideas with community conversations and ultimately actually talking to students, because I would hate to start doing these things and the students are like, all right, this is kind of dumb, I don't want to do it. So actually having those conversations and making it the most productive use of our time is something I want to work on next year.
So we hear a lot from candidates about their platforms, and over the years I've heard several candidates that have seemed relatively identical. What would you say, and you've alluded to a bunch of different things. You've already talked about, community conversations. You've talked about the Constitution and, creating transparency in that regard. But what would you say is your overarching platform, and why do you think it would be the best for the role of the president?
So mine, as can be told by some of the posters, is no false promises. it's time to be real. It's time to be realistic. And it's really time to embody the actual role of the president. So I've talked more about kind of like the student council things with the disciplinary process, the transparent grading process project that's going on in policy board is super important, and I want to get more involved with that next year. Community conversations, but much of the president's role is also being a good public speaker, being a public figure that will be there for admissions and open houses, talking to parents, and being a representative for the school. And hopefully through my speeches, the way I'm conducting myself right now, the debates kind of shed light as to who I would be in that role. And so I think that's really important as well as to why I would be best suited for the role of president is because I understand what that role is. I've been working with Jack throughout this year on various projects. I've seen how he has stepped up when we need a leader in our community, and hopefully I'd be able to fill those shoes.
Well, certainly, and I mean, this speaks for, no pun intended, for all the presidential candidates. And, you know, what I've noticed this year is that everybody seems extremely comfortable pleading their case and, you know, outlining why they deserve to be the proper president.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, everybody comes with a different platform.
Yeah.
And, you know, part of what we want to let the viewers know here is, you know, what that platform is. And I think you really did a good job of answering that, and you really spoke for that whole idea of transparency there.
Yeah.
And I think you did a really good job of fulfilling your, you know, what you said earlier about keeping it real. So back towards that, what would be your tangible route of action towards fulfilling your campaign promises?
So
that
I
you've
think
outlined so
the
far?
tangible action, I mean, because I've been fortunate enough to be a part of policy board, I have already had that avenue, really the major avenue for the president to enact change, accessible to me, and that's student council. So my ideas for the reformation to the disciplinary process has already started to become a reality. And I think hopefully over the last year that kind of serves as evidence for the fact that if I say I'm going to do something and commit my time towards it, I really want to make sure that something actually gets done. So I guess the major, and I think this is true for all presidential candidates, if they make any major promises, one of the biggest ways they can do that is student council. And when that question was asked during the debate, people said collaboration and having conversations. Well, I'm like, that's great and all, but why hasn't that already happened?
Right, and I think one of the things is, you know, over the years we hear people talking about promises. You know, we hear people. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what those things were, as they were a while ago. But you know, I remember with presidents in the past, you know, in my earlier years of upper school, you're like, okay, when are they actually going to do something?
Exactly.
And you hear in the debates like, oh, this person didn't do anything. Here's what I'm going to do, and they don't do it.
Exactly.
And so with that, it's always really, really hard to not doubt what a president promises.
Yeah.
And I think this year, with all of the different people, I think everybody's really brought about like a method that by which they can make the change, and they've already got their plans.
Hopefully.
And I think that's one of the things that really stood out to me as, you know, somebody who's not running, seeing what these people plan to do and how they already have gone forth towards making these plans, even though they're not yet in a student council or presidency position.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if you don't win, this is just a hypothetical situation.
Yeah.
It's unclear what the results will be, but if you don't win, say, what else do you think you would like to accomplish in your current role?
I already have a role on policy board for next year as well. So actually, like, hopefully our goal for the beginning of next year is to have the recusal system, the honor handbook revised, the honor code implemented in that. And then we are trying to form an honor systems committee, which will actually address bigger questions about the honor council in general, like who makes it up? Is systematization a good thing? And these kind of overarching questions that can lead to a real big positive impact on our community. So working on policy board, continuing leadership positions in several identity groups, taking a leadership position in tennis as well, and contributing on the basketball team. So really just continuing to do what I have been doing this last year, and hopefully going above and beyond a little bit as well.
So it seems to me like you've really put your effort into this, and you've really accumulated your different background and your different experiences as a leader, both with student council, with tennis, I believe you mentioned, and with debate, I also believe I heard you say. So it seems like you're using those leadership qualities to move yourself forward
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I wish you luck going into the future.
Awesome. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you.